Creatives have a key role to play in shaping culture, but this takes active resistance because often the systems that we work in mold us in nefarious ways. In this video, I'm going to give you a strategy to help you reconnect to your best work. Hello friends, my name is Matt Brunton here in the north of England, and if you are somebody that makes things, you might be a designer, musician, artist, writer, speaker, you might craft, you produce some sort of cultural artifacts, you put things out there, then by doing that, you're shaping culture. What we have to be aware of though, as people who make those kind of things, is that our work can often be subsumed by the culture, or it can be enlisted in the service of a larger agenda. And what I would just want to call for is us to have some awareness of that. I work in marketing and I acknowledge that everything is selling. Even you brushing your hair and ironing your shirt is sales. It's you presenting yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we have to be aware of what is going on when we put our work out there and how it is used. I mean, think about something like advertising, which I work within. Advertising provokes endless desire in order to fuel consumption. And it teaches us not only to think like consumers, but to think of ourselves as consumers. It's not just about how we act, but it's our identity. It's quite scary too how social media has changed our behavior. Social media teaches us to have a presentable lifestyle. It teaches us to comment on everything. It teaches us to commodify our experiences by curating them for content. These things are not necessarily healthy. And we've lost a little bit of the ability to experience things, or maybe the ability to create things without worrying too much about the outcome. Seth Godin, the very well-known marketeer, he's written several books on marketing, says that if you A/B test a website enough times, it will turn into a porn site. I think that's true. There's an obsession with optimizing everything for the best results, the best engagement, and often that will fall down to the lowest common denominator rather than the highest art. Business goals have pushed us towards this sort of activity, but you'll never do anything great by trying to game the system. You have to have a bigger vision of the future and what you want to see in the world and how your work contributes to that. Even though as creative people, making things is what we do, that doesn't mean we have to be a slave to the algorithm, the applause, or the accolades. I really encourage you, don't try and figure out the algorithm. There's two reasons for this. Number one, it will drive you mad. It's forever changing. You're never sure who to believe. And number two, it will change your work, and not for the better. It will lead you to try and reverse engineer your work for the sake of the algorithm's wishes, rather than letting your work spring from a creativity and a vision and your message and what you actually want to say. There's a lot of talk in branding about humanizing the brand, and the brand has a personality, and I talk about those things myself in my work as a brand strategist. But we also need to make sure we humanize our audience, and that we're not creating work for an algorithm, we're creating work for people. So what's going to serve people and communities? This isn't always the most expedient approach. If this video was about how to make money or how to get six-pack abs, it would probably get a lot more views. But sometimes we have to choose the important over the expedient. One of my favorite artists, David Bowie, said that, quote, "I think it's terribly dangerous for an artist to fulfill other people's expectations. If you feel safe in the area that you're working in, you're not in the right area. Always go a little further out into the water than you feel you're capable of being in, a little bit out of your depth," end quote. I love that. This idea of fulfilling other people's expectations is a limitation on us, a limitation on our creativity. So instead, we need to focus on the process, not the outcome. We need to focus on learning and growing. We need to lose ourselves in our work. We need to find again the joy of making. I think it's that whole attitude, that whole response of I'm not focusing on the outcome, I'm focusing on the process, which actually leads to better outcomes anyway. And as creative people, we have to reconnect to that. And even if you say, well, I'm not an artist or I'm not an artisan, if you can lose yourself in doing things, in making things, it can help you in so many ways. I remember talking to my wife who was spending evenings, weeks and weeks, crocheting a blanket and saying, Kelly, the amount of hours you've spent on this blanket, if you worked out how long that's taking you and what your time is worth per hour and the cost of the materials, you could have bought a better blanket much cheaper and we could have had it a long time ago and been able to enjoy the warmth of it. And that was me completely missing the point. She was doing this because she wanted to feel connected to it. She wanted the joy of making. And making your own can be a sort of a counter practice to consumerism. It can help us become more mindful of the origins of the things that we buy and more connected to the people that produce this stuff. So instead of just ordering a load of cheap rubbish that's imported from across the world and then disposing of it soon after, getting more connected to craft and craftsmanship can help us become more mindful of those origins and start to live in a different way. Today could be the day that you start afresh and start to make things with a timeless quality, things you truly believe in instead of just following a trend. Or maybe it's just a day for you to really be in the moment with your friends and family, not looking at everything through the lens of Instagram or the opportunity of LinkedIn. There's more to life than content creation. Each of us has to question for ourselves instead of pointing the finger at others and looking at the way they're being influenced by things, but question for ourselves, what is seducing us? What is leading us away from the life we truly want to live, beyond the ephemeral, beyond the illusory? So here's to the creators, the artists positively shaping society, the iconoclasts with a prophetic imagination of what the future could be. And each of us, whatever you do, can at least be in step with that, can bring ourselves into agreement with that. And all the little decisions that we make that are shaped by little shifts in attitude can actually add up to a big difference. Talk to you soon.